friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 165. Today is Friday, August 15th, 2025, and I am Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me today. I don't know, if you live in the southeast of the United States, tell me, when you wake up in the morning, is your house covered with water, i.e. condensation on the outside of your windows? It is amazing here. In fact, last night before I went to bed, it was already like that. It's as if the dew is falling on the cool exterior of the house that has air conditioning. Yeah, very, very humid these days. We need a front to come through of some sort. I don't know. You know, it is August. We shouldn't be too surprised. Yes, Flosstube is not the weather report. Flosstube is cross stitch. Variety Show is something else, so we'll find out what's going on today in a few minutes. This is Hannah Green, 1826. As you know, as I've said many times, I'm leading a stitch along, i.e. I'm stitching according to a plan, and I told other people about it, and some of you are joining me, which is great. I just wanted to, I haven't shown this in a while, but this is the plan. So here's where we started, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. We're in H right now. And originally, you know, there was a way to do it, but what I've been doing is adding in this section over the past 3 months to do an entire section of solid stitching in order to sort of break it up some more. Anyway, you can do as you like, of course. Video 139 is the first video about it, and I just recently looked up, I think it's 156 or 157 is the one where I first talked about why I'm changing it, but you can see here's my whole progress. And I've been working up in this corner. And I don't know if you can tell. So this corner is where I started in the wrong orientation. I started like this, I think, or yeah, must have been like that. Wasn't gonna fit on the linen that way. And I did not tear out this chrysanthemum or some of this border. And the question is whether you can tell. And the reason that it's even a question is because my stitches are going to go the opposite direction. You know, the second leg, the diagonal, is going to be different. And I don't really think I can tell. I mean, yes, I can tell if I look at it at this distance, but from a normal viewing distance, I don't think I can tell. Normal meaning, you know, about where you're viewing it on the camera, or maybe like that. So I still have, for this month, for the August, I have to finish this chrysanthemum and do this one and do a blue flower here, and then do this big flower pot over on this side. Oh, and this blue, there's a blue pokey flower there too. One line of the verse, and then I am working on finishing the solid stitching down there, which will mean I go beyond where those last 3 sheep are. So that's Hannah Green. It's a very fun thing. I also have been working on Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. This is incremental changes. I did close to 700 stitches. I don't know if you can really tell. It doesn't matter. I've been working on it. Oh, I forgot to bring the whole thing out, but this is the whole piece. This is 18 count Aida, 2 strands of DMC. And there are a lot of blends and there's a lot of confetti, but you know, I can't, I will say that when I get going on it, I really enjoy it, as in I keep going. It's not hard to make myself keep going. I also this time decided to pull out Harriet Salt, which is the Bristol sampler I'm working on. This one is really hard to stop working on, believe it or not. Partly because every letter is like a finish. So I'm up here in the alphabet section. Here's the whole thing that I have so far. Yeah, the shadows, I'm sorry, I know. One could have better lighting, but one. So what I did this time is in the second line of letters, I carried it over from about the P, PQR, STUVWX, all the way to the end of the line. So that is the end of the second line. So my next plan will be to do the end of the third line. I really should come down and do another batch down here too. But I'll tell you, I'm a little not put off, but the four-sided stitch alphabet, I like the look of it. And it's an important type of alphabet for the period, but I don't love doing it. But it's fine, it's fine. I've done up through M, so I've done half the alphabet. Now this is the end of the alphabets and numbers. So it's about 40% of the length of it is alphabets and numbers, and then 60% is the bands and things. So you see here's the end of the alphabets. Then we have the bands. I mean, there is this, which is letters, and this, which is not specifically bands, but. So I feel like I'm close, but I'm months away, especially picking it up one day a month, as it seems I'm doing. So two things that I worked on that have taken quite a bit of the time this week. One is that I've been working on the chart for the Jane Boyer 1831 sampler. I sent the sampler up to Leslie itself, framed, and I found some more motifs to put in the chart, and I stitched some alternate color little samples, little excerpts on 18 count Aida, just to show what it would look like, to try to encourage the stitcher who picks up that chart to not feel bound to do it in the version that I've done it, which was 40 count vintage country mocha linen with one strand of DMC. This is 18 count Aida with I think it's one strand of DMC. I can't remember. I think it's one strand of DMC. Just as examples of other colors. And these are not the very best. If I were stitching the sampler in other colors, I wouldn't choose these. I probably wouldn't choose these either, but it's an idea. It just sort of should make you get thinking. It should make you say, well, I wish there were a brighter pink and a brighter blue in that, but I like that idea. I can go for that and then choose something. So that's what I worked on. That took a day of stitching, maybe more than a day. That chart is close to ready, I would say. Maybe not quite ready. But the other thing I worked on, did I show you this last time? I must have. The Queen's Garden, the Queen's Crowned Garden and Pin Cushion, flower garden pins. Robin Shappell, Samplerbird Stitchery did this. And there's also a Queen City Sampler Guild anniversary pattern for a needle book, which uses little flowers. And I'm also taking the class that will produce these, or a scissor fob. So we're producing the pin cushion and the pins in the morning class, or learning how to do it. And then we're producing the miniature tomato scissor fob in the afternoon class. And I don't think you can see the crown, but there's a tiny crown. And the other part of the kit is in there, but these little flowers. So they're bordered by nun stitch. It's over one, except for each flower head is specialty stitches. They are just, I mean, look at the size of them. They're the size of my fingernail. This is 32 count cream linen by Zweigart. And this, I'm doing the nun stitch border for the needle book. And I can't show you that, well, somewhere there is a picture of the needle book, but it's strange I can't lay my hands on it right now. But anyway, the cover of it will be here, and it has 6 flowers across here, and then it says Queen City, celebrating 30 years of needlework and friendship, something like that. You know, it's commemorative of the 30th anniversary of the Queen City Sampler Guild, that's a very nice guild. And you do not have to be local to Cincinnati to join it, obviously, because I am not. So that I've been working on. I'm gonna do one more flower, maybe 2 more. I might do another little frame and do another flower and finish the nun stitch, of course, and do this front of the needle book. We're not making the needle book in the class tomorrow, which is a Zoom class, but we are learning how to make the needle book. Pardon my voice being a little gravelly today. There's a lot of stuff in the air. Maybe I just have an allergy thing going. So that is most of what I've done in stitching. I haven't received any new things, and I haven't bought anything, and I haven't started anything except for that. Yeah, that's the stitching part. Variety show. So this is already August, and I am behind. I'm behind on this topic. But this year, 2025, is the 250th anniversary of the birth of Jane Austen, one of my favorite authors. And I thought I would talk a little bit about her books, what I have here, her books. So I have the complete novels of Jane Austen in 2 volumes by the Modern Library. And the nice thing about this is it's big enough print that I can actually read it. I have a page marked. I thought it might have been, I don't know. I read these. I read a lot of books on my Kindle because I can make the print big enough. When I read Jane Austen, I sometimes read them in a book because this is big enough print. And there is a nice thing about a book because I feel like you can remember where things are on the page and find them better. But the novels of Jane Austen are spectacular. They're funny. They're sort of romance type stories, I would say. They're witty. She has some fantastic characters. Not only her main characters, but her secondary characters are just wonderful. And it's always worth a reread. I also have listened to a lot of Jane Austen. I have 2 particular favorite readers. This is Victoria Morgan, who reads, this is Emma. And I also love Flo Gibson. And I have Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice read by Flo Gibson. Excellent readers. And it's an excellent way to enjoy those books if it's done by a good reader. And of course, you don't have to make the print bigger because someone else has taken care of that. This is making me want to listen to one of those while I'm stitching. But another thing I have, and I can't remember who gave this to me. It was either, I'm going to guess, Susan or Leslie. This is the illustrated letters, Jane Austen, My Dear Cassandra. Cassandra was Jane Austen's older sister, and they apparently carried on a correspondence. And so here are excerpts from many letters from Jane Austen to Cassandra. And also in here are plates and illustrations of, to give you the flavor of the times. Like here's one that is a fashion plate to show a particular kind of dress that Jane was talking about in her letters. And this book doesn't include the letters from Cassandra to Jane Austen. They only include Jane's letters to her sister. But yeah, very, very interesting. And witty. You know, her witty way of writing in her novels is carried forth in her letters. It makes it feel as if her novels are very authentic. Like here is a famous painting of a ball. What does it say? What's the caption of this? The cloakroom at the Clifton Assembly Room is a painting by Rowena Shappell. So I don't know if that was a contemporary painting or if it was a painting after the fact, but it's just a very, very interesting book. It gives an example or ideas and pictures of what things actually look like. Here is Jane's own writing. Some of her letters to her sister were in verse, and a few letters to her brother are in here. Oh, this is a famous patchwork, which this has been, you can get some kits to do something similar to this in sort of semi-reproduction fabrics. So this apparently was a coverlet or a quilt that they made. She and her mother, Jane Austen, and her mother made. So it's really very interesting. Places she lived, her letters from different places, her commentary on people and what people wear, including what she herself wears and so on. So there are quite a few cross-stitch charts out, at least maybe 4 that I have seen. One has been out for a while, Modern Folk Embroidery, something about home, which I believe he released in 2020, in the year when many of us were staying home. And I really considered stitching that at the time, but I didn't get it going. I think Leslie is working on that one. There's another one that's a quote from Fanny, the main character in Mansfield Park, about the company of her own thoughts, which is another great quote. I would love to do a Jane Austen piece, but none of the ones that I've seen have really struck the bell that I sort of have in mind for this. And of course, that makes me think I should create my own. But what quote would I use? Would I use one of these thought-provoking quotes, or one of the famous ones like, there's nothing more that we do than to make sport of our neighbors and be laughed at in return? That's not an exact quote, but that idea. I mean, that's pretty clever. There's some fantastic quotes of Mrs. Bennet. One of them is something like, if I didn't complain, no one would pity me. I wouldn't want to put that on a sampler, but it's pretty clever, pretty funny. Lady Catherine de Bourgh has some great quotes. I don't know. I probably won't act on it, but it does cross my mind from time to time that I would like to do something in honor of Jane Austen's birthday. Now, of course, I'd make quilts, so I could make that coverlet quilt idea, except that I don't love the colors in the fabrics. And I think even if you were to beef them up a little bit and make them perhaps more like they would have been, that is not faded, but with pinks and greens and things in them. Similar kinds of questions we have about samplers. What color should we make our samplers? Even that probably wouldn't really be the palette that I'm after. That's my guess. So those are my thoughts about Jane Austen. There are, of course, some movies and television series. And I think that Pride and Prejudice is the most famous series. A few series is in a movie. The 1995 one is the one that...
I can use ChatGPT to answer that. You can enable ChatGPT on your Mac.
Wow.
I can use ChatGPT to answer
Siri,
that.
be quiet. Now, let me just say, I am on Do Not Disturb. I just don't understand that. Anyway, the series in 1995 is many people's favorite. So that was 30 years ago. And including some very good friends of mine, that's their favorite. And I found it fine. It was fine. It was a pretty good representation of the storyline of the book. The thing that I felt that it failed in is that it was more from the point of view of Mr. Darcy and less from the point of view of Lizzie. Whereas the books are very much from the point of view of Lizzie. And so I love the book, Pride and Prejudice. And it was interesting, I was just reading something about that one in 1995, and it said something like it put Colin Firth, who was the actor who played Darcy, on the map. I mean, it really started his career. And Colin Firth with a wet shirt was one of the seminal moments in British television. Well, again, that's not what Jane Austen was about. And so that is one of the reasons that it is not my favorite. But the other reason is because the first series I ever saw was the 1980 series, and I don't remember who was in it, but it's another BBC production, 6 or 8 episodes. The acting was just outstanding, and I will say especially Mr. Collins, the minister, the cousin who was going to inherit the property when Mr. Bennet died because of entailment. Such a great actor and such a great character in those books. So funny, very, very funny. And so, whatever one you see first is the one you love. And that's the one that I love. Because I saw it first. Would I have found the focus on Darcy uncomfortable or inauthentic if I had seen that one first? I don't know. Interestingly, the house where that one, the 1995 one, was filmed, where I think the house that Lizzie and her family lived, that the Bennets lived, or maybe it was the house that was Pemberley in that movie, is a house that you can tour in, and it's in the Cotswolds, which Leslie and I could have gone to see it. But we saw other excellent things when we were there 2 years ago. So, yeah, it's all a matter of taste, isn't it? In general, movies and books they usually elicit strong opinions on the part of readers or viewers. And there are certainly some books which are much better as books and some books which turned out that they're better as movies. Interestingly, I think that the Harry Potter movies are so close to the books that they're not as good. A big argument happens between lovers of the Lord of the Rings as books and the Lord of the Rings movies. I love them both. I think that there's some things that the camera can bring much better than the mind's eye can bring through the written word. And yet there were some changes to the storyline and some additions which were necessary for the pacing of a movie, which very much disturbed some readers of the books, and leaving some things out like Tom Bombadil. Yeah, even critics of the book can't all agree on what is going on with Tom Bombadil. Yeah. But back to Jane Austen, 250 years. If I could find the perfect quote, I would design something and stitch it. In order to find the perfect quote, I should read the novels. So we'll see. Maybe I will. Thanks. I don't think I have anything else in particular to talk about today. I hope that you're enjoying whatever your stitching is. The tail end of summer, it feels like. I know in the South or in North Carolina and in, I think, other parts of the South, the public schools are starting maybe next week. Our son's birthday is next week. He's already in teacher work days, and I think maybe students come back either on his birthday or the day after his birthday. We're going to go this weekend and see them. And once school has started, it feels like fall, even if it's still 95 degrees and 100% humidity. So it's hard to say. You know, the seasons we have names for the seasons, and we have the astronomical facts of the seasons. And yet, you sort of have to go with what your mind thinks the season is. And I think we're in the tail end of summer. That's what I think. Anyway, enjoy your stitching and whatever else you're doing, some last summer activities. And I hope that you'll come back next week. I hope to be here next week. Many blessings to you, friends.